Lionel Svensson sitting at the top of the table. You all know who he is. Rather difficult individual, and I was reminded of the fact that there are some people who see opportunity in difficulty, and there are those who see difficulty in opportunity. But furthermore, there are those who take every opportunity to be difficult. And I won't mention any names. Ladies and gentlemen, we're a little early, but we've got quite a lot on the program, and we're moving now to the more entertaining part of our Toastmasters evening. This is where we traditionally at a Toastmasters meeting have what we call the table topics session, where we practice what is called impromptu speaking. We've changed it slightly this evening to make it more fun-filled, and we have the right person to do just that job for us this evening. So it gives me great pleasure in introducing a gentleman who will explain exactly what it's all about. The man who's preceded me, Mr. Shackleton, as president of this club in 1986. Would you please welcome able Toastmaster, Mr. Will Bowker.
Mr. Program Director, last year, Mr. Flint was the brain behind the program Would I Lie to You? And we were asked to do it again this year, but one needs about 3 weeks of preparation time to run that sort of program. So tonight I'm going to try to do a variation on that theme. Now, I want you to know that the speakers tonight are all of you. Every one of you will be a speaker this evening in this session. Guests, visitors, ladies, gentlemen, everyone is going to get a topic onto which they have to speak. But I'm going to spoil you, I'm going to tell you in advance what the topic is. And the topic is the most embarrassing incident in my life. Miss McIntosh was listening, you might get one. The most embarrassing incident in my life. I'll give you 20 seconds to think what you're going to say when I call you up to the lectern to speak on the topic of the most embarrassing incident in my life. Mr. Timekeeper, the green at 2 please, the amber at 2.5, and the red at 3. Now, what's going to happen is I'll call a speaker up, and he has to speak to the topic that I have given him. And he must speak to you, and he must now either tell you a story, and you as the audience have to decide, is it true or is it a lie? In this club we once had a guy called Billy Erasmus. And Billy Erasmus was the best liar we ever met. He told us once how he lost his one eye in a fight near the Limpopo River over a woman. And we never ever found out whether that was true or whether it was a lie. So now I'm going to ask you to come up here and tell us your answer, your response to the most embarrassing incident in my life. And I invite you to try and pull the wool over our eyes and say something which is a lie. Or you might like to be honest and tell us something that is honest. Because at the end we're going to ask you to vote on whether the speaker is telling the truth or whether the speaker was telling a lie. Let me give you some hints. If the speaker makes no eye contact, clearly he's lying. Because he doesn't want to look you in the eye, because you might just pick up that he's a liar. Secondly, moving about an inappropriate body language is also an indicator that the person is lying, because they can't stand still and they're using erroneous body language. That's another indicator that the speaker is lying. Then we have politicians. Now that's easy to define. We know what they are. And then we have teachers. Then we have teachers like myself. Now clearly, they tell the truth at all times because they have to set an example to the children. So if a teacher speaks, we can be quite sure it's the truth. Then, if you have a second-hand car salesman speaking, you can be fairly sure that it's not the truth, but it's not a lie. It's somewhere in between, because second-hand car salesmen have the ability to stretch a point. So I'm giving you some hints now on how to identify whether it's true or it's a lie. If it's a person who's over 70, it's going to be a very difficult decision to make. Because the pensioner speakers themselves don't know whether it's true or not. So now I'm going to call on a speaker to come to the front and enter in the spirit of the session and see whether you can fool us, either by telling us the truth or by telling us a lie. And when that speaker has finished speaking, I'm going to ask each one of you to write the speaker's name on a piece of paper and then write next to it, true, lie. So have your pens and your piece of paper ready. And let's see who can most convincingly either tell us the truth or tell us a lie. The first speaker this evening is Peter Miller. Now, in spite of what I said about politicians, Peter is now going to come and answer the question, the most embarrassing incident in my life. Watch him carefully, watch his eye contact, watch his body language, listen to his vocal variety. Because when he's finished, in 2.5, 3 minutes, you're going to have to write on a piece of paper, Peter Miller, true, lie. And at the end of the evening, we're going to mark all your sheets. Gentlemen, please welcome to the lectern on the topic, the most embarrassing incident in my life, Peter Miller.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, ladies and gentlemen. A few years ago, I was taking a holiday in Ireland, and I had hired a car. I was driving through this most beautiful countryside. As I was going down this one road, there was this hoarding, and it said, "Sex, Sisters of St. Mary's Convent. 1 kilometre." That was strange. Can't be true, I must have mistaken. And a little further on, saying that another sign, "Sex, St. Mary's, Sisters of St. Mary's Convent, 500 metres. That's odd, because it's real. The next thing there I saw, next to the road, a sign, "Sex, Sisters of St. Mary's Convent," arrow pointing onto a property. So I drove in. I was now curious, of course, for research purposes. And I stopped in this beautiful building, magnificent old baronial palace. Beautifully kept car park. Got out the car, got into the door, knocked on the door, and the door was opened by a nun, very good looking, I must say. She looked at me and winked and said, "I know why I'm here." Oh God, please. I don't have to explain. And she said, "Come in." I went in. She took me down a passage, another passage, another passage, and eventually I got to another door, and I opened the door, and there was another nun standing there with a silver tray. And she said, "If you give us 100 euros, we'll let you go through the next door." Of course, my hand was in my pocket. Out came 100 euros. I put it on the tray, I opened the door, and I walked through, and the door closed behind me. and I saw I was actually back in the car park. And there was a sign that said, "Screwed by the Sisters of St. Mary's College."
Ladies and gentlemen, you heard that story of Mr. Miller. Knowing Mr. Miller, it certainly fits in with my perspective of him. Next speaker. Please write down on your piece of paper, Peter Miller, and then say there whether you think it's true or whether you think it's a lie. And when we finish, we're going to mark these sheets of paper to see who can most accurately predict lies from the truth. Our next speaker this evening, to speak to the topic of the most embarrassing incident in my life, I'll ask you to please welcome Percy Mabizera.
Ladies and gentlemen, our distinguished guests and visitors, we all have where we come from, you know, and certain things, certain behaviors, and certain decisions that we make, and you know, certain challenges that we face as people. We sort of like inherit that from somewhere where we come from our genetical stock or our genetical inheritance. So now, one thing that, especially around this time of the year, that a lot of my family members struggle with, it is the bottle indeed. And I've had to learn the hard way that we have a weakness, or rather we have a very uncomfortable relationship with the bottle. It was December, I was around about 15 or 16, around that age, and we were celebrating as you would have it in December. There was some alcohol, and I remember very well we were having some wine, and this wine that we were having, we were not drinking it out of a bottle, but we were having some wine out of a box. And it was very, very nice. You know, we enjoyed the 16th of December. If there is one day I would like to take away from the calendar in December, it definitely has to be the 16th of December. Because on that day, it is actually supposed to be reconciliation, but the way we're reconciling, oh no, it feels like we're gonna end up drowning. And then, so it went in our box of wine. Before I could know it, the whole box of wine was finished. And then went to bed in the night, slept. I must say, I slept very well. But then I don't know exactly how my night went. Because as I slept, I was very comfortable on my bed, and then everything was just okay. Everything was just okay. Hours passed by, whether I dreamt or I didn't dream, I cannot tell you. Hours kept passing by, and then I remember very well, in the early hours of the morning, this is when the most embarrassing moment came. So now I wasn't sure whether I was dreaming or I was actually in the bathroom. But then the next thing I know, I stretched my hand and my side of the bed was cold. It wasn't just cold, it was actually wet. Then I knew from that morning on that no, the relationship that we have with the bottle is really not on. Ladies and gentlemen, I've never had a moment as embarrassing as that one.
Thank you, Percy. I don't want to judge your valuation of whether Percy tells the truth or not. He's already told me one lie this evening. He told me that this very beautiful lady he's brought with him is not really a lady he's got his eyes on that he fancies. It's just a casual worker who works in the same office as him. Now, if you can believe that, Percy, you can believe it. Right. The most important, please write down there, Percy, and then write next to it, true or lie. Then we go to the next speaker, the most embarrassing incident in my life, and I ask you to please welcome Rob Scarborough.
Mr. Session Leader, ladies and gentlemen, I don't hear much, but on a subject as tricky as that, I did hear that about the most embarrassing, let's call it the most embarrassing incident. I do remember being about 5 or perhaps 6 years old at a family gathering. Now I come from quite a big family and quite a mixed up family. At that stage, my dad had remarried, and after my own mother had passed away, my dad had remarried, so I had a stepmother, and I had a stepbrother, and I had lots of extra family members at this dinner. Let's call it a dinner. I'm not sure if dinner or lunch, but it was quite a big family gathering, and I do remember feeling very, very uncomfortable. And I remember prior to that particular meal, we at some stage had been given some advice by my parents about good table manners and how important it is to display good manners. So you can't go through life just thinking you can do exactly as you wish. There are certain things that you need to do, and you need to have some understanding of what is correct and what is not correct, and when to do X and when to do Y. And I've been taught, and I've been told, but I've never really experienced it and never had opportunity to do it, that if you cough when you're in company, it's good that you put up your hand. All right? So I was told that if you cough in company, you need to lift your hand. All right? I presumed that you have to lift your hand. I didn't know that what they were talking about was lift your hand over your mouth. So I remember as this little boy in front of about 20 adults coughing and then putting my hand up as high as I could to show everybody how good my table manners were and how good my manners were. And only afterwards finding out that actually it wasn't to put my hand up there, it was to put my hand here. It's a table talk.
Thank you, Rob. We've got time for one more, and this is perhaps the most difficult one. I think you're going to have great difficulty in deciding whether what this man says is true or whether it's a lie. But let's wait and see. Please welcome Lionel Spencer.
Mr. Funmaster, ladies and gentlemen, very difficult for me to bring up an embarrassing moment. I can't remember it. As perfect life that I've lived, not many embarrassing things happen. So you don't always have to excuse yourself from doing things that one knows. Nevertheless, I can recall one. Years and years ago, we lived on a farm in the Transkei. And from time to time, we went out to a party on the farm, on my farmer farm. And I remember this night, you know, I was drinking quite a lot. I'm a youngster. And I really had too much to drink. Much too much. Around about 11 o'clock at night, the party was still going, and I definitely needed to relieve myself. You know what happens when you drink too much? That's what you need to do. And so I sort of walked outside. I couldn't remember where the toilets were, or if there was a toilet in this barn. So I went round the side of the barn and walked, and eventually came to a fence pole. I thought, well, okay, I'm going to hold on to this fence pole, and I'm going to release myself. So that's what I did. Unbeknown to me, as most farm fence poles do, it had a tap attached to it. And of course, farm taps don't normally get tap washers, so they dribbled a little. And about an hour later, standing there, getting all my little parts quite cold, and waiting for this bloody thing to empty, I thought, Lord, just help me stop wind right now. I promise I will go to church tomorrow. I promise I'll never drink again in my life. All I need to do now is stop drinking. It never happened. It carried on and on. Round about 1 o'clock in the morning, I decided this is no good. I'll just wet my pants and carry on walking back to the party. So that's what I did. I woke up the next morning, my pants were quite dry, actually. And the incident stayed with me quite a long time. And what that did is that prevented me from drinking ever again, so that I never got drunk again in my life after that time. Never touched alcohol. Missed it.
Thank you, Arnold. Right, now on your piece of paper you have got 1, 2, 3, 4 names, am I right? And next to each one you've written true or lie. Now we're going to ask you to mark your work. I should make you swap papers, because having been a teacher, I know that you're probably going to crib it.
Yeah, we should.
So let's go around and see who's got it right. Peter Miller, true or a lie?
No.
Was it a lie?
Creative liar.
Right, ever lie.
You should have known it was a lie. I wouldn't pay €150 for 6.
Right, if you mark Peter
Not with the
Miller,
Let's
as
go
a
back in the
lie,
day with a different
give
exchange.
yourself 1 mark. Then let's go to Percy. Percy, true or a lie?
I do, basically true.
It's the truth. It's the
True. If you got down Percy down as true, give yourself a mark. The next one was Rob. Rob, true or false? Truth or lie?
You're asking me? Yeah, that's true. True.
It's
True.
true.
I'm a boss. Thank you. It's true.
Right. Now, Lionel Spencer, true or a lie?
I think Lionel's, his last line to me gave it away.
Was it a lie or was it true?
Total lie. It's a joke I heard.
All right. So we've got 2 lies. Two truths, Rob and Percy. You've got 4 out of 4 correct.
Oh, yeah.
Well, ladies first, having got all 4 correct, will you please accept the trophy?